It's 5 p.m. Well, it's okay. We'll go ahead and get started. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I recommend we approve the agenda.
Second. So moved and second in favor. All say aye. Aye. Pass unanimously. No problem. Okay, is there a motion for approval of committee meeting minutes from February 13th to February 29th? So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. As unanimous. Okay, Mr. Hawkins, welcome, sir. I believe you.
I am going to hand it off to Mr. Corbin.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to provide executive construction update. And as I begin, I would like to point out that the report is a little different this month. It does begin with the construction updates associated with the 2019 bond referendum. Then it's followed by some information associated with the 2023 bond referendum, and then the construction updates for projects that have alternative funding sources such as 8% capital. For the 2019 bond referendum monthly project updates, that's slides 2 through 29. There is one yellow traffic light that's still in the report that's associated with Robert Smalls International Academy, slide 3. The yellow light is remaining due to site-related concerns. In February, the site subcontractor and J.E. Dunn worked together to provide us a recovery schedule, which showed that the project could still be completed on time, the phase 2 piece of it. But since receiving that schedule, the subcontractor has missed a couple of his milestone dates. So we're closely monitoring his progress, and we anticipate receiving an updated schedule again this week. And like I said, the project manager's on it like a hawk, watching it very closely to make sure that that project does finish up on time.
I have one question, if I may. Whenever
Yes, go ahead.
Is that the same contractor that the prior month sort of had been holding up? Okay.
Yes, he didn't want to start until J.E. Dunn was able to turn over the entire site to him, but he was convinced to begin.
Okay, and so now he or she is seeing things, impediments that he feels are not proper to move forward, or he just can't, or she can't do it.
Just different items have come up, I'll call them hurdles, and dates that were in the recovery schedule allow us to monitor to make sure that he can have that soft landing at the end, and he's missed a couple of them. Not by a lot, and we still believe in reviewing this with the project manager that substantial completion target date is still achievable, but in the event that it's not, we're prepared to issue notices if it comes to that.
I guess the last question on that, I'm sorry to belabor it, I'm not trying to. Does that put that subcontractor under review for future jobs with us?
You want to talk to that, Robert?
The short answer is yes. It'll definitely be taken into consideration on.
All right, thank you.
And the other thing I wanted to report on the 2019 is the other projects are moving along on schedule, green lights for budget and schedule. For the 2019 bond referendum project closeout, that's slides 30 to 33. We do have progress this month to report. Since the last month's report, 3 additional project closeouts have now been completed. They are H.E. McCracken Middle, Hilton Head Island Elementary, and Hilton Head Island School for Creative Arts. That leaves 32 projects that we continue to track. There's also tracking that we do with the 2019 financial summary. That's attachment 3 in tonight's materials. A total of 185 financial commitments have now been completed to date. Moving on. Sure. That's the
At this rate, when do we expect to be completed with the 2019 referendum?
We believe that it's still possible to finish that before the end of this year, but if you look at the details in the back, there's two that we've got reporting as Q1 of 2025, just to be on the safe side. The notes do indicate that there is an opportunity to finish it before the end of the year, and that's what we're trying to achieve, but lion's share of this should be wrapped up this year.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Talk a little bit about our financial update, slide 35, and this is all as of the end of February. It is being reported still with a green traffic light. Current referendum budget is $375,710,000. The paid and committed funds to date is almost 100%. It's $373,117,754. Paid expenditures total just over $309 million. The remaining available funds, including contingency, is just under $2.6 million, which is less than 0.69 of 1%. Contingency activity in February included the return of $496,114 in the right direction, and use of only 7,490, indicating that we're approaching the finish line and don't have that much more to still put under contract.
The 880,000, remaining contingency looks mighty nice, so it's grew from last.
It does,
Thank you.
and that allows me to continue with reporting a soft landing. The analysis that I continue to perform is still indicating that the remaining work, the 2019 program, can be completed within the allotted funds. The 2023 bond referendum monthly project updates at slides 39 to 45. We have begun reporting progress on some of those projects included in the next bond referendum. As the months move forward, you'll see additional reports being added to report progress as it begins to occur for each project. All the projects that are reported in this month's report are reporting with the green traffic light in both budget and schedule. On May River Elementary, slides 40 to 41. If you hadn't had a chance on slide 40, we have the architect's rendering of the main entrance. And over the weekend, if you happen to watch any of the news, we got some great press coverage from the local TV channels that are highlighting this project and sharing this rendering with the public. The naming of the school was also approved at the March 5th board meeting. Design development document review meeting took place on March 6th, and the architect has now begun preparing the construction documents to continue moving forward with that project.
On item page 40 through 41, I had a question mark. Is MRS High School on track? It sounds like it is.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And to help you with that, that's why we have those columns on the table for budget and schedule, and you'll see that there's green lights in both of those, but it's a good question to ask. Thank you for the question. Moving along to slide 44, Hilton Head Island High School, the addition and building renovations. MBCon Amendment number 2, that's the temporary entrance that's necessary that will precede all the other work that's to follow on that campus. That is been prepared and is routing right now for signatures. That associated work scheduled to start in April on the 12th. MBCon Amendment number 3, which is the phase 1 site work, was brought to the board and approved at the March 5th board meeting. And MBCon's phase 1 GMP proposal scheduled to be brought to the board for approval next month. Looking at slide 46, put in a little bit of information associated with the funding. Once again, the funding for the 2023 bond referendum is just over $439 million at $439,035,000. And there is a presentation by the district's financial advisor that is scheduled to occur on March 22nd, sharing some additional information that will eventually make its way to the full board and will tie to dates and amounts for the first bond sale. So stay tuned. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yes. That is actually the work session on Friday, so that will be the full board. But also, Mr. Nurick is available the day prior. He's gonna fly in on Wednesday, so he's available all day Thursday for any mini meetings, individual meetings you'd like to have. If you wanna contact him directly for that, that'd be great. If not, if you wanna, reach out to me and we can set some time schedules up for any previews of the details that you'll see on Friday. So just wanna put that out there. In that schedule, in that presentation will include projections of when the timing of the bond issues will occur. And then as soon as that is complete, we'll actually make sure to present to the caucus at their next regularly scheduled meeting.
And, wait, I saw Mr. Nurse's email and I responded that I'd like to have that funneled through to you.
Okay.
And then you can canvass all the members that are interested and they can participate. And I'd like to see dates that work for others. And I'll try to participate in the first one and then any others that I have open to schedule, but I'd like to learn as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the 21st is the only day he's gonna be on this.
He will, I'll see what time he flies in on Wednesday. So he might be available that day.
Yeah, I'm
Later
all-
that-
all day.
Okay.
I'm still gonna meet with him if I can this year.
Okay, I'll see what his flight times are. He may be available Wednesday evening, but I can check.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Hopefully it can work out for you tonight so we can. That's important.
So we have all of our dress rehearsal for our musical.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, the details if you want to come.
It's not music, that'd be good.
Moving along, slide 47. Reporting on the financial reports that are being prepared in summary documents. We have prepared drafts. We've routed them around. We've gotten review comments. We're addressing those review comments, and our intent and goal is to commence distributing those reports next month. And you'll see a little more detail in the 2023 financials than what we saw in the 2019 financials. This is some of the lessons learned feedback that we had received. So don't be surprised when you see them that you'll see individual project level sheets for each project basically. So it won't just be a few of them. And then you have to go to the summary. Each one will have one so that it'll help us better understand the scopes and budgets and managing of those dollars going forward.
Would you, sorry, anybody has this questions and what have you. Would you be opposed to actually giving just a summary sheet of the edits and changes that have been made, or you should take credit for that? So if there was feedback and you feel like, hey, this is what we've done, what you just identified, then what do you think? I'm not pushing it, it's raising.
Let me think about that. Give that a little more thought
You doing good
because
stuff?
how it went through, you know, a couple different iterations to get to the shared document, and we think about that a little bit. Is that fair?
We do a comparison to the old version, new version, kind of wise.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Let's see what Robert and I can put our heads together.
Take it away
Fair enough.
and let us know.
All
I
right.
want you to get credit collectively for what you did.
Thank you. And then, like I said, the tail end of the report is for the other projects. That's slides 50 through 72. And all of those project updates are reporting with green traffic lights for both budget and schedule. And then that takes me to the last piece that I report on, which is status of request for proposals, RFPs, and request for qualifications, RFQs. There's three that I'd like to report on. RFQ 24-009, Capital Program Management and Coordination Services. The review committee recommendation submittal to the board is scheduled to take place next month. The RFQ 24-012, Professional Design Services for the roofing services. That's reviews committee recommendations also scheduled to go to the board in April. And the RFQ 24-018, that's Professional Design Services for two of the projects in the 2023 bond referendum. That's Ladies Island Middle School replacement and the New Bluffton Early Childhood Center. That RFQ was issued on February 15th and proposals are due March 20th. That concludes my report for tonight. See if there's any other questions.
Any questions, Mr. Nate?
When I was going through all the amendment tracking, There's a lot of amendments. I didn't look at this. But the vast majority of them do not require board approval because I'm assuming because of the dollar amount. But there are, when it comes to board approval, there are, once you start getting down to page 5, it just says, please provide under board approval. What does that mean? I'm sure it's something innocuous. I just curious.
You are correct that there's a dollar amount that requires approval by the board. And over the course of time, it does change. It is a calculated figure, but the current number that we're working with is anything over about, what is it, like 615,000 or something. I've got a whiteboard in front of my desk. It's got the right number on it. But that's what we do is if we have something that's over that, and often if Robert and I see that we've got one that's approaching it, just to be transparent, we'll bring that one as well. But as you said, this is a healthy size document, but any amendment goes into this. And we started this a few years back, and it's been a really helpful tool on many different fronts, but it allows you to look at a campus in particular and figure out which contractor or contractors has been there, and likewise what design professional may have been on the campus, and then what type of work was each of them doing with a description overall for the right.
Right, but what does the please provide under board approval mean?
Can you show me which page you were looking at, and I'll see if I can find it?
I'm on page 5 is where they start. It says please provide. And then there's a series of them for the rest of the document.
I do not know the answer to your question, but I knew who to ask. I'll look into that and figure that out. From looking at the dollar amounts that are in that would not require board approval of a $5,988 expenditure.
Right.
I think it's probably just something that as the tracking log was updated, something may have got copy pasted in by mistake into that.
I was just wondering if, in addition to a dollar amount, if there was also like a particular item of work, if we have to do this type of work,
That was not for any of these that I can recall.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, I'm not sure what that is, but next month I'll make sure that we'll have the answers, and those ones will be corrected.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for bringing that to my attention.
Mr. Campbell?
I have a question, right, for Rob.
Do you want to pose it now, sir? Or you want to?
Well, I can answer now. Rob, who is the contractor, roofing contractor? Work at Railway Trail.
So, SRS was the original, MB is doing the wall work. And the roofing contractor is brought in by the manufacturer. So the manufacturer is, you know who they brought in? It's not SRS.
I'm looking at Augustine Vargas because he may be looking it up right now in the file.
I believe it's an outside contractor that we're not used to, that they were brought in by the manufacturer. I don't know their name off the top of my head.
The reason I asked, around there yesterday, the rain they had this past weekend. The gym, the new gym. Home R 7, weight room. They have to put big old garbage can against it. That's ridiculous. That's unacceptable. And we're not talking about this happening. We're talking about the leak at school, the new area. But past the other day. And something needs to be done. Because it's ruining some of the equipment, even the band rooms also. That's a new building. So I'm getting a lot of calls from parents about mold. They need to clean up some of the mold. A couple of months ago. But it's families are getting frustrated, the teachers are getting frustrated. So something has to be done. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't be done this year. People are talking about filing lawsuits against somebody. That should not be happening. It shouldn't take the contractor that long to fix the roof. They'll go in there and they'll patch it on this part, the next time a big rain comes, the leak is someplace else. Hope that we can make it stop. The water leak in the van room, you heard on some of the equipment again. Those cooking costs $1,000.
No, so I agree. I mean, this is, anytime you do a new roof, it doesn't work. That's unacceptable and frustrating. They actually did start, so they are working on the roof replacement starting last week.
Yeah, I know somebody was out there.
Yeah, and I believe it's about an 8 to 10 week start to finish. So it'll take them about 2 months to replace the roof. And yeah, prior to that, what they were now understand that we were under a warranty. And so we had to allow the manufacturer to choose how to repair it. And they were just spot repairing, as you referred to. They repair it. They finally gave up, said, yes, we're going to replace the entire roof. So now, as of last week, and they brought in their own contractor to replace the roof.
Yeah, Glasgow Roofing Company by JM. JM owns the warranty.
Yeah, Johnson Mansfield is the manufacturer of material that owns the warranty, and they're the ones that are responsible for the faulty product, and they're the ones replacing the roof. And they brought in their outside contractor, and that started last week. Take 2 months. We've already told them about the gym floor is going to need to be replaced. Anything else that comes up that needs to be replaced, we will hold them responsible.
Thank you very much.
But it's been going on a year and a half, you said?
Right, yeah, ever since it was finished.
And so on the warranty, they were doing the spot repair.
Yeah, once it took a while to realize what the issue was. It's a product that splits from heat and cold contraction. And our roofing consultant is the one that brought it to our attention because I guess a building at Citadel had the same thing happen. And so they then investigated it and they took responsibility for it. But in that stage, they didn't agree yet to replace it. They were patching. And actually what our roofing consultants told us as well, a lot of the buildings that have this problem, they don't do a complete replacement, but we put enough pressure on them that they've agreed to replace the entire roof. So that's what started now.
So, Mr. Campbell, is that a good message to take back to the community that the complete replacement is?
They want it fixed.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Because it's been going on too long. And teachers are frustrated. I was out there yesterday, talked to several teachers, assistant principal. They just, I will take that back to the community and the school, see what they can action. They're frustrated.
And if we can sort of draw a line and say, this is different from what's happened before.
It is,
So that they understand that we're amping it up. And the contractor understands that we are logging this. So there's mark out data, is the community they will call and repair. Yeah. Okay.
And it's not even really, I mean, this is the manufacturer. So the contractor did the initial install is not involved. Because it is a product failure issue. It has nothing to do with installation. It's a complete product failure.
We'll tell them if they don't get it right, we'll bring in more and more.
Mr. Junior,
Thank you. Yes, sir.
you're getting the RFPs out, RFQs out. Are you emphasizing that if you choose to bid on our work, the contract is going to have very strict guidelines on closeout? Because if you don't put it up front, then you're gonna have trouble with the contract. So I didn't know that was part of the requirement. I will tell you, just as one board member, if I see contracts come in here that don't have specific penalties for not turning in invoices and pick. I'm gonna say, I vote no on that contract. This is bullshit. I've seen it now for 5 years and I'm tired of it. We have projects that go on and on and on because normally the primes, it's normally the subs. But it's the prime that's responsible.
That's who we have a contract with.
That's right.
And
And I'm not kidding, and I'm not making any more excuses.
we've heard loud and clear, and Augustine can back me up on this because he's helping route those contracts. Yeah, the contractors are aware that the language has changed. That section in particular has got a little more teeth in it, and it's being broken down with,
Penalty.
it's a larger penalty too, larger than the last historically.
So you said it take what, about 2 months for them to replace the roof?
Can I follow up on what
Sure.
Sherman said about on clock when those closeouts first came up and he was one of the drivers of saying, take a look at it, so kudos for you for that current continuing. Do you want to sort of give us an idea of the future meeting of how you're gonna edit the contract to comply with what the current was suggesting? You just want to wait till a contract comes.
I don't have all the language with me, but
No.
if you're interested in that section of an agreement, we could, extract that out of some of the new contracts that are just being signed now and send it to Robin and distribute it. Does that sound?
That be okay, Colonel?
We can just do it as a topic at the next.
Yeah, if you want, well, I'll just bring it in and we'll do a handout and you can see it there.
So
So bring that over.
you'll have your recommended edits at that point. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, it's already in there.
I
Yeah.
was about to say, they are in the contract.
Yeah, this is what the contractors are actually signing and returning for our superintendent then to sign.
Okay, so that'll be good, then this committee can vote on and take it forward to the board and say, here's what you have proactively done to correct the problem. Is that fair?
Take myself a note. Got it. And I'll follow up on the police provide as well. I don't know what happened. On the police provide?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So Lori, who does our amendment tracking logs, just basically said that it was an issue, or it was an old amendments that did not have the board approval date for it. That's where she put, please provide the date that the approval was made.
Yeah, but there's some that it just doesn't look like it's necessarily applicable, like at a $5,000 amount, which we would never
It's
take
just,
something to the.
it's just something that Lori's tracking, trying to find this
Yeah.
actual dates.
Well, I'll get, because there's more than just a couple. I did a little leafing as we were talking, and so I've got a note to get up with Lori, and we'll get you that answer.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We're not trying to be.
Oh, these are good questions. Yeah, it's good comments too, because everyone has the same end goal, just make things easier and better for everybody.
Want to do it right, good
Next
one?
year, yeah.
It does.
Hard enough to find the time to do it the first time, so my God, let's make sure it's right.
Totally agree, my friend.
There you go.
Thanks, Carl.
Anything else?
Yeah, the upcoming.
Colonel?
Yeah, it should be, it'll be repaired.
Mr. Campbell, you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Thank you.
First, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
fix.
Okay, who's on next?
Still the only maintenance update. This may be ready on my chair.
Thank you, Ms. Major.
Okay. Well, I just probably that last section of the story, but he's got it. Right. Good evening,
Good evening.
committee chair and fellow board members. Tonight I am presenting for your review an update of the monthly March 2024 maintenance and custodial report. I'm going to be quick about this and just go through some highlights in each section. The period of time that we're reporting information for is the February 1st through the 29th of this year. We're going to start with custodial. Overall, the spot inspection section of this report, we had 5 inspections that had previously failed in January. Those sites were re-inspected and we did get passing scores on those 5 sites. Through the 47 spot inspections that were completed by district office staff, we did have 24 inspections fail. in the month of February. That's quite a high number. That's over half. Those re-inspections will occur during the month of March. We did increase our inspection numbers both on the district office staff level as well as HES. We were able to get 47 inspections done with at 11 schools by district office staff, and then HES completed 416 inspections. Now, district office staff averages were at 73%, so we were, contributing to those failing inspections. Where in comparison, our HES managers, their averages ranged between 82 and 89%. So we were definitely, I think, a lot more detailed in looking at the scope of work for what they should be doing. Our continual focus on these spot inspections is to keep our numbers up. We've had discussions with the management level staff of HES to continue to motivate them and get them to review cleaning expectations with their staff, as well as continual oversight to increase our spot inspection scores hopefully for next month. There were no staffing, moving on to staffing violations. There were no staffing violations noted for February. The staffing chart that you have in front of you are staffing percentages through March 7th of 2024, and those percentages do include the February month and January and December. We're continuing as with custodial to see fluid movement. We did have 7 locations that, although they didn't fall below the 70% staffing recommendation, they still decreased while the remaining sites stayed steady. And we didn't have a change. Moving on to recognizing success, there were some things to note for HES this month. They did hire an additional account manager. This was a replacement position for a previous account manager that had resigned, and that was for the North of the Broad School. They were successful in supporting several. We had a lot of board of election events this month with the Democratic and Republican presidential primary elections, as well as Town of Bluffton had special elections that occurred. And then they were successful in doing their employee awards, which is always a nice thing to see. They did award 5 employees, the employee of the month, which is a nice motivation for those employees. The operations department has released the performance survey for custodial. It's our normal twice-a-year survey that we do in the spring and then in the fall to just gauge where we are performance-wise. And that survey did go out to principals, so we do intend to report those survey results in the April report next month. So that is the summary for custodial. If y'all have any questions, I can answer those.
So I noticed that May River, they noticed the 50% score, but they didn't have any staffing shortage. So what was
Hold on, let me look.
it was like the out of the spot checks, it was the lowest.
Oh, sorry. You're talking about the inspection scores. Let me look at the actual. So yes, so that was the auditorium. So what was the question?
So is that just an anomaly? I mean, what was the cause of a 50% score?
So that's, so the inspection software is structured to where you put in a location, you put in a space, and it already gives you the weighted metrics and set parameters of what you're inspecting. So that it will already put fixtures within that location for you to individually rate. So in an auditorium, you would be looking at floors, you would be looking at trash, dusting of surfaces. Are the chair backs wiped down? Are there multiple lights out? Is there trash sitting around? I mean, there's multitude of things. So at a 50% score, that basically indicates that space had not been serviced in quite some time. You can see when you do a lot of inspections, you can start to see the level of buildup where if it hasn't been touched within a day versus if it hasn't been touched. So a 50% means they hadn't serviced that space.
I would say there was probably about a 2-3 week period that I know we were getting messages from that area and other areas that they were saying things weren't getting done. It doesn't surprise me. But those were getting reported. We were reporting that back to ATS with pressure on them. I know we went back out there and checked those areas and they were in good shape last week. So they have gone back to paying attention to them. So.
And it could be just come down to a missed assignment. Someone's out in that particular area when they assign their staffing, and then the manager, that particular manager did not put that in their spot inspections as a regular inspection that they needed to do at that site.
Okay. I'm sorry,
Wow.
Is there any type of discussion between the principal and the manager of AGS for that school that this would come up in that discussion?
So I'd say I don't know how they're doing. Our recommendation for high schools is that maintenance and custodial meet with the administrative team at least once a week to go over any issues they have. I don't know, May Rivers, how they're doing.
I do.
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing. We can look into that.
Yeah, would you please and do the principals get these stored? They actually receive them.
Yes, and the custodial and maintenance manager they've been tasked, our operations has continually pushed them to do and schedule regular meetings. Now, in a lot of sites, I will say, there are principals that are very, very active and they really want to be part of those facility discussions. And then there are principals that do delegate those tasks out to APs, office managers, or front office staff. So that's in reality how things kind of start to unfold.
In high schools, you're typically dealing with an assistant principal.
So one of the things to look at in terms of accountability, I remember saying I can delegate responsibility, but never delegate accountability. That stays with the senior person. So if there's a way to actually publicize this to the principals, to the superintendent, then I think it may give us a little bit more support and just positive reinforcement for them to actually get it. If that's okay. I did have one question. This was just one on the map. How in the heck did Pritchard get 114%?
So Pritchardville has been going through a lot of staffing
Okay.
changes. So at the custodial's cost, at the contractor's cost, they have been pushing more staffing at that location. And you'll see that for the last few months, they've been doing that to try to get some headway on just getting cleaning levels where they need to be. That was a decision made by HES. So of course, we're going to support that at their cost.
And thank you for that. I also have to say, I love the fact that you had the picture, this one. And I think where we can actually do that, without violating any protocol or traditions within the school district,
Right.
but recognize people when they're doing, good stuff like that. Well done.
Don't you, Ms. Gordon's on now.
Okay, Ms. Gordon? Ms. Gordon, if you can hear me, you're muted, but welcome. And you send her a chat. Okay. All right. Welcome, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry that I missed part of this, but I appreciate being on.
Thank you, ma'am. We had some good discussions and some good ideas that have been offered by the staff and the attending members. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Okay. Next one.
So we'll move towards the, go through the maintenance update again. We're reporting on the period of February 1st through the 29th. Work order percentages for this section are reported from July 1st through February 29th. The two biggest categories that I look at every month are the completed work order percentages and the maintenance initiated work orders. We did have an increase, maintenance did increase their work order percentage in this category from a 98 to a 99%. So a small amount. The initiated work order percentage did decrease from a 17.9% to a 15.9%. If you look at our February 2024 counts, which is our next section for work orders, our total work orders, we also saw a decrease there since the last reporting period. We decreased by almost roughly around 251 work orders, and then went from 114% work order completion percentage to a 99%. So again, not huge areas of concern for this particular category. Work orders by craft. This section, we report on the two highest craft categories each month. Again, our two highest, and these are the same from last month, HVAC and plumbing. We did see an increase for our HVAC, 52 work orders from the previously reported time frame. So we're at 244 for this month. I will say Bluffton Middle School had the highest at 12 work orders. I was a little concerned there until I went through and did some additional analysis and found that 11 of those were maintenance generated. We had a technician who was evaluating systems there to ensure that the units were communicating with our automated logic system, and to capture those times and those instances, he put in those maintenance initiated work orders. So that's good. That's really what we want to see. So 11 of those were maintenance initiated, where that individual was doing those systems checks, and then we had one that the school had initiated and requested that maintenance responded to. Moving on to plumbing work orders, this month we saw an increase of 46 work orders. Battery Creek High School had the highest number at 17. The service requests included in this were for, again, we've got clogged toilets, drain lines that were compromised, as well as water fountain and sink repairs. When maintenance did go to evaluate those clogs, they did again find small debris in those lines and in those toilet fixtures. So that's just a trend that we're still continuing to see at our high school level. Moving on to school blitz spotlight. Our blitz site for this month is Michael C. Riley Elementary School and Early Childhood Center. Maintenance did complete a blitz there. They collaborated with the school to establish what the work order priorities were, and they were able to complete 35 work orders at a 63% rate of completion. And this was in preparation for a visit by the superintendent and town mayor. So I was told that the visit went really well, and both campuses, shined.
So Ms. Measures, you select a blitz every month?
Mm-hmm.
With one school?
One school, yes, and we alternate between north and south. So in April, we will present a blitz section for north of the Broad School. Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to work order completion totals. These are the two sections where we break out specific percentages for our north of the Broad area schools and our south of the Broad area schools. The total work orders requested for both north and south did decrease by over 100 at each for each area. So we did again see a decrease in work orders for those areas. The total completion percentages stayed the same for the north of the Broad compared to last month. It did decrease slightly for south of the Broad. We're still in a completion total range of a 96 to 117%, so about 21% from a range there. Completed work order percentages within the same month. This is another category I like to see and look at from month to month. These did decrease as well by a few percentage points in both north of the Broad and south of the Broad areas. February north of the Broad was 50%. We were at 52 in January, so not huge. And south of the Broad, we were at 53 for February, and January 61. That was a little bit more of a hit. Overall average work order completion time frame. So these are the days that we've calculated out that it takes each area to complete work orders. Both north and south did have a slight increase. Those differences were north of the Broad is at a 5.54 day count for February work orders. This was previously reported last month at 4.89. South of the Broad, we were at a 4.54 and previously reported a 4.48. So again, some small variances in there. Moving on to staffing, maintenance is still staying at a 95%, sir.
Would it be possible if that work orders could be done vertically? Because this is very visually easy for us to do trend analysis.
So when you say work orders, are you referring to the monthly sections?
Yes, ma'am, where you will have like those data points, 807 completed.
Yes.
You could have that on the horizontal axis and at the top, you can have the month. So when we look at the visuals, it's just like that, we're gonna provide trend, and it's getting better or getting worse.
Gotcha.
And we can target on ones that are showing appreciable.
Okay, perfect. No, that's fair. We can do that for sure. That's a great addition. Anything else on that section?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to staffing, we did not see a staffing change for maintenance. They are still at a 95% staffing rate with vacancies. We have 2 plumbers and 1 general technician. They're still pushing to actively recruit in those positions, but have not made headway. Moving on to recognizing success for maintenance. They of course had their successful blitz at Michael C. Riley campus. They also spent a significant amount of time at Hilton Head High School this month. They did a lot of support and coordination with a third-party vendor to take on the task of removing and cutting back vegetation from Hilton Head Island High School. We were at a 3 to 4 foot pushback from the school to get a lot of that overgrowth taken away from the school, as well as getting the roof line, the tree trimming done for the roof line around the school. And then they also had an additional project of installing grates and those small roof vent access points to try to prevent rodents from entering all the little areas that they can. So those are 2 really big significant things that they spent a lot of time during the month of February trying to make a considerable impact on. In addition, it's spring, and with spring comes school events, moving work orders. And so you'll see in this report, one of the last things is we were at 108 moving work orders. We're already over 80 man hours, and we anticipate that just to continue to push even higher and higher in the coming months as schools prepare for their end of the year ceremonies. The last page of the report, you'll just see some quick photos of some things they did. A lot of hanging of banners and pictures of the fence that they fixed at Early Childhood Center as well. Maintenance, also, we have a performance survey out for maintenance right now to principals, and so we will be reporting those survey results next month, along with custodian.
Just want to say I really appreciate you recognizing success. I don't know, this may be a wild hair idea, but would it be possible without incurring any additional expense to have a before and after picture? This photo of how you cleaned up that fence, and then we can use it maybe through Dr. Bruder's office. Like, say, here's how we're doing spring cleanup or what.
course.
But so many great things are happening this week, and try to support the district and telling so.
Mhm. Wonderful, thank you.
Mr. Smith is joining us in.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Smith. Mr. Nate, any questions, comments, sir? Ms. Gordon, any questions or comments, ma'am?
Just one comment, from what I'm hearing and seeing. I thank you for, all the pictures and the comments and relaying this information. I'm new on this committee this year, so I'm in awe. And, but I am, picking up pretty quickly, but it's because of this great presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell, Mr. Smith?
It's muted.
Okay. All right, next up.
All right. Connie, you want to join us over here?
Okay.
This is going to be the three of us actually contributing to this, and we're continuing our custodial discussion from the last meeting that we had. And so to kind of show what I've actually kept the same presentation from last meeting, so I'm not going to hit over the same topics we did last time, but you'll notice that the pages in orange are the new ones. And that's basically what I'm going to hit on. If you want me to go back to something we talked about last time, fine. I just don't plan to stop there unless someone wants to go back. So if you would go, Robin, to the cost projections of outsource. So one of the things we showed there is that the slide just before. Because I just want to bring your attention. One of the things we're anticipating is even in outsource, we're expecting an increase in cost of at least 20%. And so you're seeing our current contract FY25 along with a 20% increase, and that is what we are anticipating at a minimum. And so if you go to the next page, Ron. So what we were asked is to find some sources of contractor expenses. And so this comes from a website, CleanLink, which is an industry source. And the link is down there if you want to look it up. And they gave a range, as you'll see there, expendable supplies, they said is anywhere from 0.75 to 2%. So what I did is took the average of that range and just said, okay, that's 1.375. And went down through each of these items, and we're going to use that data later. You'll see down there as well that that average added up to 101%. So I did have to make some adjustments there just to get to 100%. So if you go to the next slide, that's where I use that CleanLink data to come up with the breakdown of what they're saying contract labor should be. In other words, of what they charge you, 62.5% goes to salary, 10% to benefits, 11.5% to tools, supplies, and consumables. And I grouped these, so I had to put some of the groups before together so that we could have some consistent numbers. Major equipment, 3%, overhead expenses, 9%, and profit, 4%. Next slide. So the Beaufort average. So this is an average of kind of what we're paying now with our current contractor. So you'll see that they match up pretty closely to the CleanLink. Salary 62.7, benefits 9.4, tools, supplies, and consumables 9, major equipment 2.4, overhead 10, and profit 4.5. Next. And so then we actually wanted to go to a second company. So this is a second custodial company that provided us this breakdown for in the same format. And what you see there, again, you'll see they're very similar. We'll go through all those. There's some, we'll have some charts later on where you can put those together. So any questions on kind of that breakdown of how a contractor bids a job, basically?
Mr. Harding, if I may, yes, good job on the CleanLink. Good job on getting a second contract. Were you able to establish a connection with the purchasing managers?
So we did look into that. The problem was to get any information out of them, you had to have a membership, and we did not have a membership, and so we did not.
Okay, thank you for that.
Ms. Gordon's hands up.
Ms. Gordon?
Yes,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have one question. I'm looking at the profit, Robert. Is that profit for us or profit for the contractor? I'm not understanding how to read that part.
Yeah, no, that profit would be for the contractor. So in other words, if we're paying the contractor $100, $4.20 of that, or $4.20 of that would be profit to them.
Okay, thank you.
I did notice that on the Clean Link, their profit was, their overhead was 9%, but on the company two, they had it down like 3.9%, I think. Where does that account for like a 6% drop in overhead? Where does that?
So what you'll find in a lot of contractors is basically it's how they calculate overhead probably. Like some of them may put some of that in tool supplies and consumables, or it's all how they break things out. So to me, when you find little differences like that, they're probably one contractor may count, let's just say, paper in the office as overhead, where no one may call that a consumable. Little differences like that.
Okay.
All right. So the next slide goes into benefits. So these are the benefits basically of our current contractor that they offer. So you do see there that they have a healthcare plan, a dental plan. They have many of the same things that we have and offer. Like us and in-house employees, if you want short-term disability, that's going to be an additional cost. If you want vision, that's an additional cost. And the same thing happens here. See highlighted there, I've got the 3 sick days, 5 vacation days, and 6 holiday days. And you may remember that during COVID, we added that to HES's contract to have additional sick days and vacation days that they did not have there before. And that's the days after they were added in. So if you go to the next slide. I'll just bring to your attention there, you see the numbers in red. Tanya has some updated her calculations, and so there is a change since last time, and those are the ones in red, and those are her latest calculations for those costs. Do you want to? I'll tell you what. I'll hand over to you right here. Do you want to talk about the 16.35 and 15?
I can. Okay, so if you recall, the last meeting, we had 2 separate sets of documents. One was a $15 an hour rate, one was a $16.35 an hour rate. And doing some more research, and because these documents were created by a team effort, so I have a deeper understanding of how all the calculations work at this point. There are multiple tabs, worksheets that have embedded information which lead up to these summaries. So one of the important pieces of information that is the deep depths of the details is that we took, and I'm going to refer to this page, which I think is the first page of the handouts. So if you see, there's 5 columns here, and these actually list positions that would be in a school, day porters at elementary, middle, or high, and supervisors, and so on. The first 4 columns are actually, we went out on the internet and found the average pay for a position. And first, the BLS means Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Indeed, for janitors, custodial workers, Glassdoor, salary experts, and then we took an overall average of the 4 salary wage rates. And if you average all of these rates, that comes out to $16.35. So that's where our $16.35 scenario came from. But we also, believe currently have an average of $15. If you look at, it's not the starting wage, but it's sort of an average wage across the employees. And so that's why we took both rates. So, in the two scenarios, what we found is that there were a few adjustments. I don't know, my conversation is kind of blended with the meeting that I had yesterday as well. But for the most part, I made some adjustments. The biggest adjustment on this page, which is the $15 or $16 rate, was that we changed the startup cost. We found that the school districts that we had surveyed, that Robert spoke with, had large startup costs in the first year. And then there were so the equipment would be smaller in years 2 and 3. So in red on this document are the changes to match that. So you're going to see a $1.2 million investment in year 1 of an in-house or self-operated contract arrangement, and then $50,000 and so on in the next 2 years. However, some of that larger equipment could be financed. So it doesn't necessarily have to go in the general fund. That is an opportunity. Also, we took down, did some adjustments on human resources and took that down a bit. So the net effect of what we found was that, and if you'll go back to that summary slide, if we will, the one right before that, the PowerPoint. Sorry, I get to make you switch back and forth. So if we're looking at the current contract of $7.4 million at 15, it doesn't matter. It's not at an hourly rate. It's just what the current contract is. And if we projected a cost being self-operated at $15 an hour, are based on this scenario and a 20% increase in the contracted amount, we would be looking at $4.9 million. And then if we went self-operated on the $16.35, it would be $5.7 million increase from the current model. Now, some of that increase is we will experience some of that increase if we outsource as well. So, so I did make some modifications, slight modifications to the last one based on new information. And should I roll into?
It's the next slide.
So the next slide on the PowerPoint is a kind of a summary of my meeting that I had yesterday. At the committee's advice, I went and met with Dr. Peter Swift. He is a professor in the business department at University of South Carolina, Beaufort. So we had a great meeting. And he, first, I just started by providing some background and what we're kind of looking for, and just basically some guidance on the kind of validating the methodology that we use, the assumptions that we used, and did they seem reasonable. And he actually, without having studied this as long as I have or Robert has, he came up with some very, very helpful information. So first, he was very interested about the metrics, like first of all, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And have you already decided you're going to do something, or, and so of course the surveys, and based on my limited knowledge of the discussions of surveys, I understand that we're struggling some in that area, in the custodial area. So there is a need to make some sort of change. And so I think that was first the issue that we needed to share with him, and that the surveys did not come out as well as we would have liked. So also he was interested in doing an extra test of reasonableness on particularly the contracted service amount. So was my 20% that we estimated, he almost thought it was too low. He wanted to test to see if that value was too high, too low. In this market, and knowing that we haven't gone out for bid in a few years. He suspected that it could be more conservative than we need it to be. So he asked that I visit at least survey at least 2 other areas or sites to be able to come up with an estimate. And in our conversations with other school districts, we came across 2. One was Colquitt School District in Georgia. They had a range of 20 to 25% increase, and they went from contract to contract. And Charleston County School District actually had a 36% increase. So I did some analysis of, and so we do tend to be a little low and conservative on this. So just know that my estimates here are relatively conservative. And so we may tend to budget in the neighborhood of 25%. And so a 20% would be about a $1.5 million increase in our budget if we were to outsource. And then a 25% would be more like $1.8 million. So at the very least, we're going to be beginning to place at least a $1.8 to $2 million placeholder in our budget for potential custodial increase until we know more about the details of it.
And that's for contract.
That's for contract. So now, if we need to budget something larger, if there's a decision to bring back in-house, then we'll need to designate probably 4 to 5 million in that range. Or pull out a piece of that equipment and perhaps put on the 8% project list if the items can go on the 8% list if they're not consumable. So if they have a life of more than 1 year, the paper products cannot go on there. But mop buckets and mops could probably go. Definitely the big machinery, buffers and waxers and those kinds of things could do that. So that is an option. So we met the test of reasonableness. We know what range we're in. This range may be on the low end of what is estimated. And then, so of course, I did go back. We talked about the equipment and adjusting that startup number and human resources. And keep in mind, this gentleman has an undergrad from Brown University, a master's degree from Harvard, and a PhD from Pace University in New York, I believe. So he's worked on, Target, McDonald's, all kinds of companies on business models and evaluated and researched. So he had a vast experience in analyzing this kind of thing and different business models. So just to wrap things up, there were a couple of recommendations or things that we talked about that he really liked. And if we were to decide to outsource, the 2 contract model was very appealing to him. He felt that if one vendor, was struggling a little, perhaps the other vendor could take over a school or a couple of schools for a period of time, or even the entire contract for a period of time until we were able to go out for bid or have some other decision. So he was very interested in that concept. Also recommended that if we outsource, to visit the referenced schools. So the references that are going to be provided in an RFP someone would physically go to those schools that are referenced and walk through them and see for their own eyes, with their own eyes, what things, did it really look as clean as they said? So that was an interesting concept, sort of like an undercover boss kind of thing. So I thought that was an interesting concept, probably a very good idea. Yes, it would take some time, but to get the right answer or the right vendor, it might be well worth it. So I think that pretty much sums up the information. Let's see if I have anything else here. So with that, I'll either turn it back to Robert or you feel free to.
If you have any questions for Connie?
The only thing that I was considering, like, when you came up with the 16.35, is that weighted? Because like across the district, there are more cleaners than anything else. But it would appear that like your average is based on that there are equal number of jobs or equal number of people at each job. They're providing an average, but we have more general cleaners than anything else, but only one supervisor at each school, right?
That's correct, and so these are not weighted, they're just an average of the positions, and so that probably is would it be an improvement that we could make in that? So it would be an average of just the positions that were available at the time, so. But, I think if we were, I think we're closer in the $15 an hour range, so if I think that actually that average would lower if based on the number of, you know, we had 200 people in the day porter category, so that would move towards closer toward the $15 an hour.
Okay. Ms. Gordon?
No, I'm
Question?
good. No questions.
Okay. Colonel Guy?
You know, the real issue here is principal satisfaction. Principals all say they would like to have a custodian. So my question to the principal is, how much is it worth to you? Okay, just did a little math. You have to go up 1.8 million for a contract. And we're looking at a $4 to $5 million increase in going in-house, right? Roughly. Okay. Divide that by 32 schools, comes up to $140,000. I would say to principals, what do you really give up $140,000?
Absolutely not. What is always the very first thing that gets cut when principals have to new? I would not support that.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that is a way to say how much is it worth to the district. For if you go to Alice Walton say contract's a hell of a lot better because I'm gonna have a whole lot more employees to do it. Okay. So there's an institution, a macro institution that's gonna be very against going in-house. People that want it are the principals. But the principals have to understand it comes at a cost. And so it's a little squeeze. I keep telling this with budgets. If you want to increase in one area, you gotta squeeze someplace else. So, principal, where do you squeeze? Just, I'm not saying you're gonna do it, but give me some feedback. What do you think that we're spending money on that isn't affecting you as much as the value added of having your people coming in? I know it's a theoretical issue, but it's really the basis for the decision that we make.
I disagree. I disagree with your premise in that the principals are the number one priority. In this institution, I believe our number one priority is to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money and get the best bang for our buck. That might make some principals happy, and it may not. But I'm not in favor of leaving that up to the principals.
Oh no, and I'm not saying that at all. I agree with what you just said. That we have a fiduciary responsibility to our constituents. I totally agree. But to try to have the principals understand how we can balance that responsibility with their desires is to say, okay, I know you want it. We want to give the best bang for the buck. So put it on to them to say, okay, you tell us, principals, what you would do if you were us. And we have the right to say,
I will point out that my last comment about it, that the board, when we went through our budget priorities, fine arts was number 7.
Yeah, I understand.
And the custodial was not even in the top 10.
I understand.
So I don't even remember it even being anywhere on there at all.
It wasn't.
So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
You're stealing the spot. Yeah, get there.
My bad, dog. My bad.
Fine.
Completely fine.
Mr. Gamble?
You mentioned something about equipment. You think if you, maybe best to lease the equipment,
We could, that is one funding option.
and if you don't lease the, equipment, you buy it outright. You would have to have somebody in-house to repair if something goes wrong.
Or send it off to the manufacturer or to a repair company, yes.
Mr. Smith, I'm looking up there, I'm thinking. No, I think Ms. Gordon has said she has no further comments. Is that right, Ms. Gordon?
Yes, I'm just listening. Thank you.
And in terms of it from, listen, I will concur with what some of Mr. Geyer said in terms of, I do understand in terms of, I think that his point was, I think is to the principal who wanted it to give them some ownership, into how this process goes, in terms of where the actual money is coming from. But also, I believe that there are some technology programs that we won't be doing next year that we're doing now, and I believe that will free up some money to possibly even start the process of, even if we don't have all of them back in house, we can even run a test run and put some of them back in house with some of that money that we're not utilizing to have those technology programs, because that's going to free up some money. So now, so let's not be naive about it, and do understand that one of my colleagues said that custodians was not on the custodians wasn't on the budget. During budget season, from our past practices as a board member, when we get down to actual budget discussion in those couple of days, and when we have people come in, there's a lot of stuff that's not really on the budget that the board end up putting on the budget, because people come in and they open your eyes up. As a board member, you see what's in front of you and certain things that you're focusing on, and then what you're being told. But the more information you get, the more the more clarity. The more clarity and the more understanding that you get, it helps you make a more sound decision. So just like looking in the mirror, when you drive, there may be certain signs that say that things may be clear closer to you than in the appearing in this mirror. So I say that to say this: it may not been on our top 10, but who's to say that it's not? Because once again, these are and I will continue this process. These are taxpayers who are paying taxes and who have approved us when we go out for referendums to get approved for referendums. So we don't want to fight them and spit in their face. And one is to say that we see you, but we're not hearing you right now because we got more important than you to talk about. So we have to be cognizant of how we put things and how we face things in terms of our items, in terms of how we're making decisions with taxpayers' money, because they are taxpayers, and we all do have losses too as well. So I just want to kind of put that out. That's just food for thought. So that's it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to make sure you understand, I am certainly not saying we should increase our budget and increase our millage to pay for $4.5 million. I'm saying you take it from someplace else. Okay. Because I agree with you about priorities and so on, but I want to scope it. The average salary of all of our employees is about what? Salary and benefits. I said 80K. What would you think?
I don't have an average, I know teacher salaries are.
Yeah, I know teacher's salary. I'm guessing, I'm guessing it's $80,000. And that's,
I would be wrong if I guessed.
yeah, I'm guessing. So 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits. So $4.5 million is 56.25 employees if you pay 80,000. 56 employees. We stand at least 56 employees to pay for bringing in custodials into the house. I think we have a very difficult time. And let's say my figure is wrong, it's only 60,000. I think that's way too.
Well, with benefits,
With
the
benefits.
higher amount
Yeah,
probably be
exactly.
accurate.
Exactly. So I just don't see how the cost benefit makes sense to go and bring them in-house. I don't see how any figures support that. I just don't.
We're also in that ESSER funds issue.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I just don't see how to make it work.
Okay. Everybody have a chance to chat, input? Okay, then here, I like to share my perspective. The numbers are overwhelming. And not only that, the projections you've shared have been buttressed by external experts who have come in, they don't have a dog in this fight, and they reviewed methodology, and you've responded in kind by flexing to incorporate some of their recommendations, as has Mr. Otten with cleaning. I think that is a real strong message. And when we are challenged about, well, you had your finger on the scale. No, we didn't, because we took it upon you two, took it upon yourselves to go external, say, come look at what we're doing. And again, the numbers themselves are really overwhelming. To just what I sense others are feeling, majority of the room, we can't go against them. ESSER is out, okay? Who knows what's coming down the legislative pipe in terms of new requirements. We need to be prepared for that, so we need to be lean in terms of budgeting. This is a way to make sure that we actually clean the facilities and maintain the facility. One thing I would add is I think there should be some consideration of being able to have the principals sit down with them on a regular basis, and they not, delegate that to someone else. They're accountable, doesn't go anywhere but them, and then up to the IR. And then I think that would help ensure that some of these surprises that we get, they have the highest level of leadership taking a look at. The quarterly review of performance between the principals and the ATS or whomever, I think would be very beneficial. So I think, kudos to you and the team for the rigor in which you've done this analysis, for your patience and acceptance of ideas coming in from outside. You already put a lot of work in it. I think it is totally defensible. So with that, for the members, Mr. Nay and Ms. Gordon, are either one of you in support of making a recommendation to take this forward at the next board meeting?
I recommend that we take to the board that we do not go in-house.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, it has been properly motioned and second. And so all of those in favor say aye. Aye. Ms. Gordon? Okay, I saw your hand, ma'am. So it passes unanimously, and we will present this at the next board meeting. So kudos to everybody. It's been a lot of, dips and doodles, so to speak, but you folks have produced a wonderful product, and again, it is totally defensible. And that's what we're always doing, okay? The, two things really create cohesion in the team. And I saw these in this presentation. One is to make sure your people are properly paid. You show your financial appreciation. And then the other thing, and I think there's some room for improvement in this, is that the contractor has to treat their people well. They have to treat them as human beings. The number one reason people leave a job is not because of pay. It's because of friction with the supervisor. And so our contractors, if you can put any incentives in their contract that they survey their people and they respond to that. I think this whole thing, efficiency is in the main contract. All right. Anything else?
I think y'all covered a lot of what we had, so I don't think we have any need to go through everything, other than the next to last slide and the last slide. We were gonna talk about, if we do go out of house, some of the things we would like to put into our contract to, and actually go back to slide 4, just because I gotta call out, Mr. Nay, because he mentioned the slide just for that. I know he mentioned this last time. It was just one of our main points. We showed some of the financials for that. And I know Mr. Smith says that it doesn't have to be in the top 10, but it was not in the top 10 of your budget priorities. So by not going in-house, you can use that money to focus on your budget priorities. You go to the next slide. And so one of the things we've been working on is just thinking about this. How can we get the benefits of in-house with a contract? You know, those things to give the principal buy-in, things of that nature. And so these are a list of things that we are thinking of doing to add to the contract in order to achieve that. Now, I don't, you want to hit on some of the high points, Brandy, on some things that we're looking at doing?
Well, I think the first one stands out, and that just goes along with the recommendation of the you know, professor that you had spoken to, Tanya, is a minimum of 2 vendors, you know, putting that language in the solicitation that we will be selecting multiple vendors, but there will be a minimum of 2 vendors. Creating those groups of schools based on that, to where we have groups of locations, very similar to what we do with our current grounds contracts. And that will allow us to have these groups of locations, so where if we do have an underperforming vendor, we already have someone in-house that we can move those groups that are underperforming to.
And one major advantage to that is we're giving more opportunities to vendors in our area. So that's another advantage, if you might say, to that proposal.
I think I heard Colonel Guy talk about some new referrals that might be helping expand within the group, so that's good. Is that it?
Well, I do want to point out like the principal involvement items that we're trying to add. So we're gonna have, number one, we hear all the time from principals that people get moved around on them all the time. So we're gonna require that they have to be consulted to move anybody out of their building. We're gonna say that administration have to approve the head custodians and the head custodians, the day custodian, and the lead nighttime custodian, so that the principal has buy-in in who they are. Again, like we said earlier, they meet with their team once a week. And we do the inspections that Brandy does and other people in our department. We want to put that in the hands of the principals. They could do those inspections themselves. If they so choose. If not, we can do it for them, but we want to empower them to do that themselves. And then on top of that, we're going to put some penalties on the contractors for not meeting the requirements of penalties, not having staffing. Like you see what we're doing now, we're tracking where they're faulting, but there's not enough teeth in it, so that if we track and they do fail, there'll actually be a financial penalty to go along with that. And we think that'll get some more attention. So yeah, those are some of the highlights. So yeah, if you have any questions on kind of that point.
Sure. Yes, sir. Obviously money talks, and we're talking about money for penalties. That gets people's attention real quick. When it comes to recognizing people though, all we're doing is, okay, good job, here's a certificate. What about any type of bonus where like, okay, if you maintain them are 85% in the standard for a quarter, you get a $5,000 bonus for that quarter. Or something like that. I mean, and then we can have that money contingent, in a fund, which would still be cheaper than bringing it in-house. And then if they don't earn it, then they don't earn it. I mean, it's, we're gonna penalize them. Why can't we also reward them?
So I agree. One of the, what I'll say is that a couple things on that is, yeah, Charleston looked at that when they did it, and their increase in cost was 36%. they had to take it away because the cost was too much to do the carrot option. But I do think you could take some of that funding from penalties and do something. I also would like to see the custodial staff be treated more like our staff. So that they're at staff meetings, they're at the gatherings of the schools. There's no reason a school can't treat them like anyone else. There's not. So we're gonna try to promote that amongst the schools. And if there's other ways that we can recognize them, then yeah, we'll look for those as well. And that's some things I want to talk to HR about. I haven't had those conversations yet, so I have some ideas. I don't want to put them out there without getting their buy-in first, but I have some other ideas.
That's a good idea, about positive. Anything else? I have, oh, yes, Mr. Steve.
You go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay,
And I'm gonna change topics.
okay, now I was gonna say, actually, I would definitely disagree with that, because we're gonna pay money and we're gonna even be bringing in-house to do that. But I think that to have the principals involved in it all, I think is wrong. I at some point in time that we would need to bring HR in, because I think that principals should not be in contractor's business. That needs to be something that is dealt with at your Mr. Allen's level. And because that brings up a problem, because first off, those people, technically speaking, they don't work for administration. So administration, and I've seen where we have some situations where that has occurred right now. And now this meeting is not the time to talk about that. But where that brings problems off of other things. So if they're gonna be contracted employees, and that's who deal with them, versus the district, and district employees deal with district employees. So to me, there's a red area, and I would prefer to stay with, they would say a gray area, and I would prefer to stay away from the gray area of the district. I think that it would be in our best that we do that. So. And in terms of administrators getting involved in contractors, I'm totally against that. I just want to put it out there. And in the bonus, I'm totally against that as well, because if we're gonna save money, we're gonna use the money for other things. And let's just put it, either you're gonna do your job and come here and go home, or if you're not gonna do your job, then we don't need you. Is that simple? But point simple.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. I think what I'm hearing is you said you would confer with HR. And the real soft spot there is if the school district is too directed to contractors, you run the risk of them being identified as employees, and then all these other things kick in. But HR and this cartilage can guide you on that. So, again, before I said, well done, everybody. Okay, with your feedback and your listening skills and your input. The next thing I want to touch on very delicately, if I may, this will be very brief. When I looked, one of the things is to make jobs easier for people is to eliminate rework. And we can say, try to do it once and do it well, right? A phrase like done once and done well, right? Anything like that, so that we create a culture where we're not asking our people to do something over and over again. Let me give you what struck my attention. The first agenda came out on Monday, came out at 3:01. Then at 3:29, 3:19, the meeting notice came out. Then the agenda came out, the final agenda at 6:45. Now, I'm not probed as to what was causing that, right? I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying that's a lot of rework for our administrative staff when we have deadlines where we're asking people to have their whatever they want to present in by Thursday, so that the administrative staff can do whatever they need to do on Friday, get it out to all the leaders, because this is very important stuff and we want all of you to have a chance to actually review. So I know I probably somehow contributed that, so I'm not pointing fingers, not at all. Just asking if collectively as a team, we can focus on doing it with precision, doing it with quality, and then moving on to the next thing. Is that okay with everybody? Is that?
What's the name for that?
What it called?
Lean Six Sigma? Is that what that is?
Yeah, they do. Everybody okay with it? Thank you all. Unless there's further conversation. Oh, next topics. Future topics.
I do have one.
Yes, sir.
I'll let you know of all the vehicles that the district has including vehicles that we pay for, even for some of these companies, as in these cars, these trucks. To understand what we have going on and how much vehicles that we have. So I'd like to understand that. So those trailers and all that. Yeah, I'd like to, yeah.
Okay. Any others?
We're going to be bringing the 8% list next time. So we're gonna start that conversation. Bring it on.
8%.
And my understanding, we would have brought facilities use, but my understanding is you will be talking about that at the work session. So we're gonna kind of skip the operations committee and bring what we would bring, at least to start the conversation, our facilities use report to the work session.
Super. And if Ms. Gordon, any topics, ma'am?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, I don't know where it goes, this may not be the perfect repository for it, but at some point, I think, maybe it's curriculum, but a real precise breakdown of the requirements of a public school district versus a charter or a private.
That's academic. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll raise that there, but I know that,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
but I know that, some of my constituents pose that question. And so.
Right, you're asking.
Could be operational.
It could be operational, because you're asking what is the difference between a charter school, the requirements in a charter school and the requirements of a public school,
The financials.
the financials.
Yeah, the financials, because what we get queried on is your expenses are high. And there's no comparison of the input that we're expending those expenses for.
Capital costs.
Yeah.
Capital costs.
That's just what I was gonna say. I mean, that's the way you phrased it was a pretty wide net, but as it applies to this boardroom right now.
Yeah, might be outside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where. Yeah,
I probably need to ask a few questions to understand what it is, and then I can offer some suggestions on which committee or it could be multiple committees.
I can relate to you the questions that have been posted.
Yes.
And then again, just preparing ourselves to answer any and every possibility in terms of questions, so that the true value of public schools is apparent. Still supporting private and charters, go wherever you want your kid to go, but let's make sure people have an understanding of how complex what this organization is. Okay, is there ready to adjourn by consent? I think.
We adjourned.
Oh.
So our next meeting in April. We're the second Tuesday, so our next meeting in April would be April 9th.
That's spring break.
And
So
that's spring, on spring break, are you? So do we, to move it to,
Name is Gordon. Another date.
April 9th.
Another date.
Yeah.
Capital?
Yeah,
I'm in the capital April 10th, right?
yeah.
yes, April 10th, April 10th, you're at the day of the Capitol. For those,
We don't have a board meeting on the 16th. Maybe we don't. I don't know. Maybe we do.
yes, we do,
Oh, we do?
yes.
Oh, then that's
Wait a
that.
minute. That's a work session. If there is not a board meeting on the 16th, do you all want to meet on the 16th?
There's not one.
I have to look, because I think it's a work session, I have to get out on the calendar. Let's see.
Yeah, I actually have on my calendar.
Let's see.
Going, Mr. Campbell?
Yeah.
Travel safe.
14th, yeah, we have, finance for the 14th at 2, right?
We're finance at 2:30 on the 14th.
Yeah.
There's,
And then the joint board meeting at 6, yes, sir.
There's a work session on the 26th.
So we don't have a board meeting on the 16th.
That would, I mean, I can do the 9th if we want to, but it's kind of, a lot of people aren't around on
Right.
spring break.
I don't have a problem. If the,
Finance on the 14th of April.
No,
It's
March, but not March 14th.
But there's no problem with the 16th, if that's what.
So you all want to meet on the 16th,
you're talking about April, right?
April 16th.
Ms. Gordon, are you okay meeting on April 16th, ma'am?
Yes,
Mr. Nate?
Yeah, works for you.
yes.
Ms. Crosby and the signing work for you?
Yes. So operations on the 16th at 5 o'clock
Thank you.
Of
Phil.
April, right?
of April.
Thank you, Ms. Majors.
You're welcome. Thank you for
Appreciate it.
your time. And
Thanks,
I
everybody.
appreciate it.
We're adjourned.
I really appreciate all the work that you guys did on coming up with all that. I know it, I hope it wasn't perceived as busy work.
We're done.
We learned a lot.
We did. We learned a lot
Uh-huh.
and we collaborated and we, shared ideas too.
And a lot of what we learned, we're incorporating into the next contract. I mean, to me, to your point on, closeout.